we learned a machlekes between Bishami and Basil. Okay, today we're holding Daf Zion, and we're down by the line. It starts halacha. It's about 10 lines down. We're up to L'Ravada Barav Amarav. The discussion here was a mavli that was bent in Nardai, that they treated it with the chumrah of Rav and the chumrah of Shmuel. They treated it with the chumrah of Rav. They said that, it's considered like an open on both ends. That was Rav's opinion, how to view a mavli like this. They treated it like the stringency of Shmuel, which says that it's going to need doors. Shmuel passing like Hananya, that a mavli that's open on both ends needs doors. Rav would hold that it only needs a tzur Pesach, only a door frame, but not actual doors. They gave it the stringency of both Rav and Shmuel. Gemara asked, you're not supposed to take stringencies from every opinion. We had this discussion about someone that takes the stringencies of Bishami and Basil, both of them. It says Aksil b'chei shechela, fool walks in the darkness. So we said first of all we have a problem with that, because how can you even say that you have an option of following Bishami? Not like Bishami. We said that was before the Baskel or after the Baskel. Or it's the opinion of Rabbi Shua that doesn't follow the Baskel. Or maybe what it meant was, that was just an example. We weren't really referring to Bishami and Basil, we were referring to any machlekes. So nevertheless, what's going on in Nardai? Why were they taking both strict opinions? So the first answer was that Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak's answer. He said that they weren't really taking two opinions. They were taking Rav's opinion. And even though Rav was lenient, but Rav also said that you shouldn't paskin like that. You shouldn't openly paskin like that. It was a halacha vein meirin kain. It meant that you don't tell everyone that that's the halacha. Even Rav held that it's better to be stricter, that you should have doors. Now the Gemara says, "L'Ravada barava amar Rav damar halacha meirin kain mai ikal lemeimar." There's another opinion that held that Rav said that no, the halacha is that you're lenient. You don't require doors on a mavli that's open on two sides. You don't require doors, and not only that, but that's how you paskin outright, that it doesn't require doors. Right. So what was going on in Nardai? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Shizvi, Kilei Avdinu Kachumri de Beitrei, Ich Desasria Dadi. When do we follow two opinions? That's only if the two opinions contradict each other. You can't say the two opinions without it being a contradiction. See, what's happening here is that we have two independent machlekes. One machlekes is, how do you view an alleyway that's bent? It turns like an L. Do you view that it's open because both sides end up in a Rishus Rabim? Or do you view that as closed? Because the fact is, when you walk straight, you bang into the wall. One end has a wall. I know if you turn, you're going to end up back in the street. But how do you view that? Do you view that as a closed, straight mavli? Or do you view it as an open, bent mavli? So that's one machlekes. The other machlekes is, how do you close off a mavli that's open on both sides? Now, whether or not a bent mavli is considered an open mavli or not has nothing to do with the other machlekes of how to close off an open mavli. Whichever way I go doesn't determine what I hold by the other case. They're both independent machlekes. When is there a problem of paskening like two opinions? When it turns out that you're contradicting yourself when you go like two opinions. If you hold like this, then you can't hold like that. We're going to see examples. You're going shidra v'gulgolos. For example, the spine and the skull. See what this is talking about. The Tanana was taught in a Mishnah. Shidra v'gulgolos shechasru. it's supposed to be Shidra Oyal Gugoilas. So the Rambam reads it. A spine and a skull that are missing. It means they're not complete. And we're talking about a human spine, a human skull, and it's in a tent. It's in a house. And what's happening is that we're saying that it's not giving off Tumas Oyal. It's not giving off the Tumah of being under the same roof as a corpse. And the reason is because in order to give off Tumah of under a roof, it would need to be the majority of the body, which is the spine, or it could be or it would be a full skull. The head of the majority of the body, I guess. Now, if it's not complete, then it won't give off that tumah. So we're saying a spine and a skull that's not complete doesn't give off that tumah. It gives off tumah if you touch it or if you carry it. Kama chisaron b'shidra. How much lacking, how much missing of the spine would make it tahar? So the smaller measurement here would be the more lenient measurement. Bishamay shtei chulyas. Bishtame says 2 vertebrae. Basil loimrim chulyachas. Basil says 1 vertebrae. Now, Basil is more lenient. Is that how you say vertebrae? Vertebra? Vertebrae? 1 and 2. I don't know the plural. Okay, so vertebrae, maybe. I can't hear you, Dr. Stein.
Vertebrae.
Both plural and singular?
1 vertebra, 2 vertebrae.
Okay. So, English, what a language.
I think.
Okay. So, Beishamai is being more strict. Beishamai says if you're missing 1 vertebra, then it still gives off tum in the house. Basil says no. 1, the house is tar. It's not considered a full spine. Basil is more lenient. Beishamai says if you want it to be not a full spine, you need to be missing 2 vertebrae. What about the skull? If it's missing the size of a drill, that I think it was a type of drill that maybe a doctor would use or something. Basil says that the amount that would be taken off a living person that the person couldn't survive, then that's the amount that would make the skull not considered a complete skull. Now, how big is that? It says that that's the size of a coin. I see there's a Taisus Yeshanim here on the side, if you notice, a small Taisus. It says there's so many people that part of their skull came off and they still survived. Must be that the skull that we're talking about, that the skull gets removed together with the top meninge. I don't know how they're referred to. One inside one and an outside one. So by a person, the lower meninge isn't necessary that it's going to be punctured just because the outer one is removed. That's what this says. Whatever the case is, what we're doing here is we're discussing tumah in a house. And when we say, when does the house become tummy? When does it not become tummy? Rav Yehuda says, name of Shmuel, the same thing would apply to treifus. Because what we just said here is a law regarding tumah. But if you take the same information and you use it for treifus, the same machlekes you'll have the same machlekes. In Hilchas treifus, an animal that can't survive is not kosher. So let's take Beis Shammai's opinion of what's considered not giving off tumah. It's two vertebrae that's missing. What would be considered a treifa? 2 vertebrae, not 1. It means Beis Shammai becomes lenient. What was a leniency in tumah is now a leniency in. So what could we do? We'll take the strict opinions of both. We'll say that it's going to give off tumah if it has 1 vertebrae. That's Beis Shammai's opinion. But it's going to be considered a treifa if it's missing 1. That's Beis Hillel's opinion. Beis Hillel said it's going to be, maybe I said that the opposite. Beis Hillel said that 1 vertebrae will already make the spine tahar. What would that tell me regarding treifa? That 1 vertebrae would be considered a treifa. 1 vertebrae missing. Well, so it comes out that you can't paskin like both. You can't paskin like Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel at the same time because it's contradictory. If either you hold that that's how the animal lives, or you hold that that's not how it lives. The Gemara concludes of Dinan. If it's not a contradiction, we have 2 separate machlekes. It has nothing to do one with another. Machlekes Rav and Shmuel regarding what's considered an open alleyway. If it's bent, is it considered open? Machlekes Rav and Shmuel regarding how to close off an open alleyway. They're not dependent one on the other. That's not a problem. You can take the chumras of both. That's an explanation for Nardai, how they were able to take the chumras of Rav, consider this an open alleyway, and take the chumras of Shmuel and tell me how I have to close off an open alleyway, because they're not dependent one on the other. The Gemara asks, and is that really so? That if it doesn't contradict, when it contradicts, you can't paskin like 2 different opinions. 1 second, Masav Rav Meshashi has a question. Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva, we have a story with Rabbi Akiva. Shliket esrog be'echad b'shvat. He picked an esrog on the 1st of Shvat. Now, the 1st of Shvat, according to one opinion, is considered Rosh Hashanah Leilanis, opinion of Beis Shammai. That means it's the new year. Happy birthday to the fruit. According to Beis Hillel, it's not the new year. It's still the old year. It still hasn't reached its new year. Now, what happens is that there's 2 types of meiser. The second meiser, the tithe. For the first, there's 7 years in the Shemitah. So the first 6 years are divided into 2 parts. You have the first 3 and the second 3. Now, the way it works is the first 2 years, you take meiser sheni. In the 3rd year, meiser sheni means you bring it to Yerushalayim. In the 3rd year, you give it to the poor. And then in the second group as well. Year 4 and 5, you take meiser sheni. In year 6, you give it to the poor. That's how it's divided. So he takes an esrog. And according to Beis Hillel, this esrog requires meiser sheni because it's in its 2nd year. According to Beis Shammai, it's in its 3rd year because it just passed Rosh Hashanah Leilanis. It was just they don't call it Tu B'Shvat. Beis Shammai calls it Rosh Chodesh Shvat. It just passed Rosh Chodesh Shvat, so it's in its 3rd year. You have to take a different meiser. So you can't hold like both. It's either in its 2nd year, it's either in its 3rd year. If you hold like Beis Shammai, you don't hold like Beis Hillel. It's not separate, independent machlekes. It's one machlekes. What does he do? B'nog by Beis Yisurim. Rabbi Akiva took meiser twice. Echad k'divrei Beis Shammai, v'echad k'divrei Beis Hillel. He took meiser like Beis Shammai. That means he considered it meiserani. He had to give a 10th of this. 10th of 1 esrog. Maybe it was a bunch of esrogim. Pick 10 esrogim. Let's give a 10th to, well, you had to take meiser first. Now we're talking about the 2nd type. So you had to give meiser to the poor. Echad k'divrei Beis Hillel, you also had to consider it meiser sheni. Well, if you do the math, there's a little bit of a problem there because when you take Meiser twice, you lose a percent. You lose a little bit. You can't really do it accurately. Taisvis resolves this issue and resolves some other issues along with this. Jimmy, good to see you. So Taisvis explains it like this. He says he had a way out. What he does is he takes Meiser Sheni as if it's in its second year. He does Beis Hillel's opinion first. Takes Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni is supposed to be brought to Yerushalayim. You don't have to actually bring it to Yerushalayim. You can then redeem it. So he redeems it. How does he redeem it? He takes money and he puts the sanctity of the esrog onto the money. And the money is now holy, and the esrog is now mundane. Now he takes the esrog again and he gives it to the poor. So it's still the same first Meiser. It's still the same first. So it works. That's how we explain. So the problem is that how is he doing that? It's a contradiction. He can't do both. It says Rabbi Akiva Gamra Yestapik Le'V'Layadi V'Sil B'Chad B'Shvat Amri B'Chamisa B'Shvat Amr. Rabbi Akiva wasn't trying to be machmer like Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Rabbi Akiva had forgotten who holds what. Is Beis Shammai the first of Shvat and Beis Hillel is Tu B'Shvat, or is Beis Hillel the first of Shvat and Beis Shammai is Tu B'Shvat? So he was trying to pass them like Beis Hillel. He didn't remember which way was the correct opinion of Beis Hillel. So he did both, but he was trying to do Beis Hillel. He wasn't trying to do Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. That's an answer. Okay. Yosef, Rav Yosef, Kamedi, Rav Huna. New Gemara. Rav Yosef is sitting in front of Rav Huna. Yosef Kama. He's sitting and he's saying, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav. So Rav Yosef could be like by Rav Yehuda. He's saying over a teaching of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Now Rav Huna would have been a contemporary of Rav Yehuda. And he's just telling over, Rav Huna is also a student of Rav. So he's saying over what Rav said. Machlekes regarding Tanakama and Hananya. We had before, page back. So Machlekes regarding how do you make an Eruv on a Mavi Mefulush? And a Mavi that goes, both ends enter into a Rosh Hashanah. Actually, it said how Keter Ma'arvin Derech Rosh Hashanah, but we adjusted it to mean a Mavi Mefulush Rosh Hashanah. How do you make an Eruv on that? So the Tanakama held that one side needs a door frame and the other side needs a lechi or a kaira, a post or a crossbeam. That's it. It's considered like it's walled off and you can carry there. Hananya said one side needs a door. Both sides need a door according to Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel said one side needs a door and the other side it's a lechi or a kaira. That machlekes. That's only machlekes b'sratia mikan or sratia mikan. That's only if there's a highway on both ends of that mavi. Uplati mikan or plati mikan, or there's a plaza on both ends of that mavi. So in Rosh Hashanah mamish, a real Rosh Hashanah on both ends, that's when Hanani said you need a door, and that's where this discussion is. About sratia mikan or bika mikan, but let's say there's just an open area. It's not a Rosh Hashanah, a bika. Bika means a valley, but it means a field. Just an open area. It's not a public area. Or let's say there's a bika on both sides. Then everyone will agree that you only need a door frame on one side and a lechi on the other side. So it depends on what's at the end of the mavi. It's only if both ends of the mavi are open to Rosh Hashanah that there's this opinion that requires doors. The Gemara asks right away. It says, Hashta, Srati mikan, bika mikan, esleitzur, pesach mikan, v'lecha v'kari mikan, bika mikan midbai. If one side opens to an open area, not a Rosh Hashanah, so then it says that you don't need doors, according to everyone. You only need a tzuras of Pesach. On one side, and a lechi on the other side. It doesn't tell me which side is which. But But if, and the same thing would apply if it's open on both sides to an open area. It's open on both sides to an open area. You also only need Tzuras Pesach on one side and a Lechi on the other side. So Gemara asks, 1 second. If only one side of the alleyway was enough to take away the obligation to have doors, so if both sides are open to open area, for sure you don't have an obligation to have doors. You don't have any Rishus Harabim here. If one of them was enough, so why do you have to tell me two? Gemara answers, Srati mikan, ubika mikan. If there's a highway on one side and an open area on the other side, nasa kebika mikan, ubika mikan. This is very common for the Gemara to do. And the Gemara says, why do you have to tell me the second case? It's so obvious. It says, no, what it means to say is that the first case is like the obvious second case. It's even though it's not really there, it's enough. One open area is enough to make it that it's not considered a mavim, a foolish to Rishus Harabim, because one side doesn't go into Rishus Harabim. Okay, all of that is the easy part. Now it gets tough. It gets complicated. It's a very complex Gemara. I mean, it's we'll figure it out, but it's a different a different level. Change gears on the bicycle. Now you're going uphill. It says, Messiah by Mishmei Rav Yehuda. However, who was talking here? This was Rav Yosef talking. And he says, he's telling Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav what we just said. Now he concludes that Rav Yehuda says, but he doesn't say in the name of Rav. So we don't know if it's in the name of Rav or not. He doesn't say. Okay, there's two parts. There's two types of courtyards. There's a chatzar, which is the front of the house. That's what's really used. And then there's the rachva, which is the back of the house. Now, whenever we discuss Eiruvin, chatzar, Eiruvin chatzeres, that's because the common area was the front of the house. The back of the house was not used, really. So the front of the house, that common area, that's where you needed an Eruv. If the mavoi went, one end was Rishus Harabim, and it went and it opened up into the back of a house. I mean the back of the house. I mean the yard in the back of the house, the backyard, which is not really used. It opens up into that area. Then you don't have to put anything there. It's considered like it's closed. Now, Rashi explains that, yeah, it's closed because it's closed. What is it telling me? I mean, the backyard is closed. So, well, it's opening into a backyard. Rashi says that the backyard is open on the other end. That's what we're going to see. That's what we're talking about. So the backyard really is open to Rishus Harabim at the other end. But the fact that the Mavi doesn't go directly into Rishus Harabim, it passes through the backyard. The Mavi itself doesn't pass through. If you want to get through, you'll have to pass through. So that's considered like it's closed on one end. Rashi points out that you do not need an Eruv for the backyard. It says it's machlekes between Rav Acha and Ravina. And in the entire Torah, Ravina is more lenient when he argues with Rav Acha. And therefore, and the halacha is like Ravina Lakula. And so therefore, you don't need an Eruv in the back. Now, what we say we don't need an Eruv means you don't have to join this with anyone else. It's not used enough. They were never masak an Eruv in the back part. Okay. Amalei Abai Rav Yosef. Abai is a student of Rav Yosef. Abai says to Rav Yosef, Hadar Rav Yehuda the Shmulhi. This last statement that you just said, in the name of Rav Yehuda, the first statement was in the name of Rav Yehuda Amarav, in the name of Rav. But Rav Yehuda happened to learn by two teachers. He learned by Rav, but Rav passed away. And then he went to Shmuel. He learned by Shmuel. This second statement that you said was not from Rav. It had to be from Shmuel. Why? Either Rav, because if it's a statement that comes from Rav, then kasha de Rav ad Rav. Then we have a contradiction. One statement to Rav and another statement to Rav. The Tarti. Some have the opinion here that it says betarti. Some take out the betarti. As we're going to see, the Gemara doesn't spell it out. And there's a problem with that. The Kabbalah Nasanel says that the word betarti here shouldn't be here. Because the Gemara always spells it out whenever it has a double question. And here the Gemara just says a question, doesn't explain it. Why? What's the question? Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amarav. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says in the name of Rav, Mavi shenifratz b'milui l'chatzer. If a mavi opens up into a courtyard, b'nifratz a chatzer kenegdei. Let's get a screen over here. There's our spine. All right. Here's where we have a highway on one side, but an open area on the other side. That's the mafai. This picture is the alleyway, but it opens up into a backyard, into a rachva, to a backyard, which the backyard then has a breach in the wall, which opens up into Rosh Hashanah. We said you just need a lechi. So we explained. Now we're saying a mavai that opens up into a chatzar. Okay, here we have a chatzar. This picture right here. The mavai is opening up into a chatzar. This is Taisvus is explaining something else. Whatever the case is, it could be this a backyard. You just have to turn the houses
What's
around.
the difference between a rachava and a chatzar?
A rachava is a backyard and a chatzar is a front yard. The rechava is not really used, and therefore it doesn't require an Eruv. The chatzar is used. Now, what happens here is that we have a second issue. We thought that our issue was, do we consider it mefulish? If it opens up, mefulish means that it's open on both ends, mavi, or is it not considered open on both ends? Because it doesn't really open. It passes through a yard before it gets to the Rosh Hashanah. But now what's coming out is that we have a second issue here, and it doesn't have to do with if it's open. The second issue is that if I have a courtyard that's open into a mavoi, then I can't use the mavoi if the people of the courtyard are going to be walking right through it, unless they made a shituf, unless they joined together with the rest of the mavoi. But if this courtyard is open to the mavoi, then I need the food eruv. I need a second eruv. It's not the eruv of the wall. I need a second type of eruv. It's a different type of eruv. So it goes like this: and the other wall also broke down. The back wall is also broken down. Rashi tells us that it did not break down, the back wall didn't break more than 10 amas. So it's still considered a doorway. So chatzar muteres. You're allowed to carry in the chatzar itself. The chatzar didn't become a mavai. The chatzar is still a chatzar. However, mavai yasser, but the mavai is asser, because all the people of the chatzar are walking through the mavai, and there was no eruv that was made. They didn't all join together. The Gemara asks, the Gemara right here doesn't recognize the second issue. And the Gemara is thinking that, second, it's a mavi mefulish. There's a problem over here. The mavi goes straight through. You can't carry in the mavi. So why over there did Rav say that it's not considered a mavi mefulish if it goes into the backyard? When it comes into a front yard, he says that it's a mavi mefulish. Now, there's secondary questions here also. Rashi pointed out. But anyway, that's the concept over here, that it doesn't fit with the statement of Rav. Which is not mefulish. It doesn't go straight into a public area. It goes first into a private area before it gets to the public area. Amalei, Rav Yosef responds to Abaya, you're right, I don't know. I don't know who said this, if it was Rav or Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said it over. However, Uvda Hava Bidura Derus. There was a story in a village of shepherds where Mavi Shekal Rachva Hava. It was a mavi that went into a backyard. It ended up in a backyard. Back wall of the mavi was open to the backyard. Rabbi Yehuda didn't require anything. If you don't like it, for it to go like Rav, so to have him Mishmei Shmuel, so let it be in the name of Shmuel. Sounds like he's tired. It's like, whatever you want. Kasha Mishmei, Kasha Midi, and then it will be like that. Okay. Fine, have it your way. You don't want it to be like Rav, okay, let it be like Shmuel. Okay, now the Gemara goes out. It says, Hashtadam Alei Rav Sheshis Rav Shmuel Barabba, a totally different Shmuel. Now that Rav Sheshis told Rav Shmuel Barabba, Rav Yosef Barabba, Asbralach. It says there's one other factor here that you have to think about. Kanshla Yerva. But really it depends if there was an Eruv that was made. If an Eruv was made, and over here we're talking about an Eruv that was made with the rest of the Mavi, that should be called a Shituf, I think. So when does Rav say, Rav Yirmiyah Barabba, name of Rav, say that you can't carry in that Mavi? That's because there was no Eruv that was made. And this courtyard goes directly into the Mavi. And so the people from the courtyard just walk straight through the Mavi, it's considered open. So it's not like you can say that, well, how would we do this if it wasn't open? Couldn't carry in the Mavi anyway. There was no Eruv. Yeah, maybe what it means is you couldn't carry from the courtyard to the Mavi, but you could carry in the Mavi itself without taking from the courtyard to the Mavi. Maybe that's the pshat. In the Mavi itself, you should have been allowed to carry if the courtyards were closed off. But here, now that the courtyard's open and there's no Eruv, so then you can't carry in the Mavi either. In the Mavi itself, you can't carry. But if there was an Eruv, then you would be allowed to carry. So therefore, the Rav Nami Kasha, we can resolve this as well. Kanshi Eruv b'nei Chatzar b'nei Mavi, Kanshi Eruv. It depends. Was there an Eruv there or not? Now Rashi puts this in a very strange way. Rashi says, Kanshi Eruv b'nei Chatzar b'nei Mavi, Kanshi Eruv means when did Rav allow back here by the alley that entered into the backyard? That's considered she'irvu, that they made an Eruv, even though they didn't make an Eruv. But it's considered like they made an Eruv because they don't need to make an Eruv. Backyards don't need to make Eruv. Only front yards need to make Eruv. However, when did Rav Yirmiyah Barabba say that it doesn't work? That's because there was no Eruv. So in other words, what we're coming out with is that we thought that an alleyway that's a mavoi that's going into a yard has an issue of mavi mafulish, that it's really going through. That's what Rav was saying, Rabbi Yirmiyah Barab in the name of Rav. Turns out that wasn't his issue. This was a different issue, that if there's an opening there, the people are walking straight into the mavi, they're making this prohibition that it's considered a living area of more than one person, and you need an Eruv there. Not because the gate is broken down and it's considered open. It's not a mafulish issue. It's an Eiruvin issue of they didn't designate the food. Okay, so it is possible that statement back here was going according to Rav as well. The statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Marna says,
why would the chaver not just stop where the end of the wall is and the mavi continues going through, and each person has their own private property that doesn't need an Eruv because just doesn't need one? Why doesn't the mavi just carry through and be mefulish? It's open on both ends. Why does the center part of that alleyway not maintain its status as a mavi?
That's a good question. It has to do with the people of the Chatzar walking through the Mavi. This is based on a Gemara, a Mishnah, Daf Tzadik Beis. The Mishnah says if there's two courtyards, and a large one and a small one. Okay. the opposite. Over there, the Mishnah says that the large courtyard you can still carry in it, but the small one not. I mean, maybe it is similar. Okay, it has to do with if the people are walking through it or not. If the people are walking through it on their way to the street, so then it's considered like a joint property of the different courtyards, and it's going to make it forbidden to carry in there. The reason is because the whole mavoi becomes their courtyard. Anyone that lives there.
Then one doesn't have a shasiyach, then they can make a very simple eruv, by closing off one end or two ends of the mavoi.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess we're dealing with two dinim here. We're dealing with the diurim, the people that dwell there. That's one type of eruv that we need to all join together with food. Then we have the other issue with the wall, that it's broken down. So the chutzner itself, that's the interesting part. When I have a mavoi that opens into a chutzner, I could still carry in the chutzner. It was only in the mavoi that I couldn't carry. Let's see a little further. The Gemara is going to give us some options. Well, let's see a little further. What you thought originally, that the issue with the mavoi that the wall is broken at the end and it goes into a courtyard, or it goes into a rechava, and you thought the issue was, is it considered mavoi mafulish or not? Then the machlekes would have been whether there was an eruv or not. Machlekes Shmuel and Rav. What would the machlekes be if there was an eruv? Eruv means the food. And what would the machlekes be if there was no eruv? So the Gemara explains. There's a very interesting discussion over here. Let me bring it up. That's a chutzer gedaylar. The big courtyard and the small courtyard. It doesn't really have a shavim b'chutz. It's a simple concept. Let's use this picture here. The mavoi is shava mi bifnim. It doesn't see that it's entering into a new area here. It doesn't. When you're on this side, when you're in the let's say it's a chutzner or a backyard, and you're entering into a mavoi, the wall of the mavoi is nira mi bachutz. You could see that you're entering into a wall. In other words, this would require a mezuzah if there was a lentil on the top. And in other words, but when you're walking this way, you don't see that there's a wall there. So there's a machlekes here how this works. Nira mi bachutz v'shavim mi b'fnim. Is that considered a new area or not? So, and that's a machlekes.
What do you mean, the area between the rachva, the part of the mavoi that's by the rachva, that you don't see the wall?
So yeah, that's a machlekes if it's considered that it continues straight. See, going one way, in other words, only going one way is it considered like a new area. Going the other way, it's considered like you're just following the old area. So is it considered that you're stopping in the chutzner, or not? Because you only see the wall from one side. You only see the wall from the outside, not from the inside. There's going to be a machlekes on the next daf. I guess
Like there's always a machlekes on the next stuff.
I guess what we're looking at here is if it's considered a doorway or if it's considered parutz, or if it's considered a breach. If it's a doorway, then that would be better. But if it's entirely open, that makes it worse. And let's see the next one. What about the machlekes if there was an Eruv? The Rav Yosef. That's the machlekes regarding Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef leishano asakol emtzer rachva, but kol tzida rachva aser. Rav Yosef says that this is only if it goes into the center of the backyard, like we see in this picture here. But if it would go to the side of the backyard, and I think there was a picture for that. Yeah. You see picture 73, is that if the mavi goes straight through, then everyone would agree that it's asr, even though it's passing through a backyard. But because the one wall is a solid wall that takes you straight through, so then everyone would agree that that's a problem. You follow?
What if the person who has the rachva makes an Eruv there, makes it proper, and now it's like it has a wall there, so does the mavi continue without?
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. We're saying that this would require, according to Rav, a Tzuras Pesach on one side and a Lechi on the other side. But this one here, where it doesn't go direct, well, there's another issue here. It's not Keneged Zeh. But let's say it was Zeh Keneged Zeh. The opening was exactly right here. So then Rav says it doesn't need anything. That's what we were learning. Okay. Amar Rabba. This that you just said, that if it goes to the center of the backyard, it doesn't need anything. It's not considered that it goes straight through. That's only if the exit is not directly corresponding parallel to the opening. That's also like we just saw in that picture. Amar Rav Mesharshia says, this that you just said, that it's permissible if the opening is not parallel, is not corresponding to the exit. We have a concern. Even though you're telling me that it's mutter, if it doesn't correspond one to the other, but we do have a concern that it's possible that the owner could build something there and make it into one long wall that would take you right out. We don't know what people are going to build. When they're going to build it, that's going to be a problem. But if it's a Rachva Derabim, if there's many people there, then it's not a problem. If that means because they're going to tell each other not to build, or they're not going to be allowed to build. How do you know that you make this distinction between if it's a public backyard or a private backyard, that we have to be concerned about what an individual might do that's going to ruin the halachic status? It says like this. There's different ways of learning this. Rashi has his own opinion, and the other Rishonim have a different opinion. Here, Rashi's opinion. Oh, Rashi Tzidek. This is what they're saying. Daf here, just 1 second. Okay. Here's my mavi. This is my mavi here, according to Rashi. Now, one side has a wall. That wall is a garbage heap. The other side also has a wall. It's a wall downward. It's a bay wall, right? Goes into the sea. So there are two walls. One is going up and one is going down. So What's the din of that? Is that considered a mavi that has two walls? Now it's only open on one side. So this story comes in front of Rebbe. Rebbe doesn't say what the halach is. It doesn't say that you can't carry in there. Well, it has walls. By the way, we use the canal wall. It's very similar. It doesn't say that it's permissible. He's concerned that maybe someone's going to empty the garbage, the yala yam sirtin, and maybe the water is going to bring up all the sand, and it's going to spoil that wall. It's going to make it more like a long incline. Mar says, 1 second. Do we suspect that they're going to remove the garbage and the wall's going to disappear? But Tanan, we have a Mishnah in Shabbos. No, it's not in Shabbos. It's later on. Ashva b'shasarabim. Let's say there's a garbage dump that's right outside someone's window. It's in Rosh Hashanah. The window that's right above it is allowed to throw in that dumpster on Shabbos. Why? Because it's 10 tfachim tall. It's Rosh Hashanah. And he's coming from Rosh Hashanah. So he drops straight down into the Rosh Hashanah. Now, I said it's a dumpster. Really, it's a garbage heap. Alma. Shani bein ashpad rab lashpad yachid. Hachanami shani bein rachud ram lachud yachid. If it would have been in a private area, then you would have had a problem throwing into the garbage heap, because maybe someone took away the garbage heap, and if it would have been a private person who emptied his garbage, and now it's not 10 tefachim tall. If you throw it out, you threw from Rosh Hashanah down into Rosh Hashanah. That would be a problem. But because it's a public garbage heap, so no one's going to move it away, so therefore that's permissible. So what are you telling me? That what are you telling me that you're suspecting? What are you telling me that you're suspecting? That Rebbe didn't say that you can carry in that mavi because someone may remove the garbage heap. He said that you don't remove the garbage heap. What's the answer? The answer is that you don't remove the garbage heap if it's a public garbage heap. But if it's a private one, then it does get removed. That's where we would see that distinction. For Rabbanan Mai, what happened in the end with that story? What did the Rabbanan say regarding the Mavli, that one side is a seawall, and the other side is a garbage heap? Rebbe didn't want to respond. What did the Rabbanan say? Rav Yosef bar Avdimi Tana v'Chachamim Meisrim. Rav Yosef bar Avdimi taught that the Chachamim said that it's also, you can't carry there. I guess because it would get removed. Amar Rav Nachman halacha k'Chachamim. Rav Nachman says halacha is like Chacham. Yikadamri Amar Rav Yosef bar Avdimi Tana v'Chacham Matirim. Some say that Rav Yosef bar Avdimi said that exactly the opposite. The Chacham said that it was mutter to carry in that mavi. It has a seawall on one side and it has a garbage heap on the other. Rav Nachman, and on that Rav Nachman said, "Ein halacha k'divrei Chachamim." That the halacha is not like Chacham. Either way, Rav Nachman's holding that you're not allowed to carry on in a mavi like that because the wall could get removed. Mereimar pasak l'sura be'uzli. They had a sea in Surah, and he put mats. He put nets. He put nets up to keep the wall. For it to remain a wall, they didn't want to rely on the wall of the sea. Amar Chashin Shemayala Yam Sirtin says, I don't know, different tides could bring in sand and it could make the incline at the wrong level, and then we're going to lose our mechitza. Ahu Mavi Yakum David Basura. It was a crooked mavi, a bent mavi in Surah. Karach Budya. They rolled up mats, and they put it right at the spot where it bends. I don't know if anyone held that. Well, according to Rabbi Yosef Shel Rashi, we learned before that you would need a lechi on each end plus a lechi over there, right at the bend. But Rashi himself didn't learn like that. Anyway, they put this mat over there. Rav Chisda says, "Halaika Rav, halaika Shmuel." Doesn't fit like anyone. Rav said that it's considered a mavi mafulish, and you need a tzuras Pesach there. Shmuel said you don't need anything there. L'Rav damar teraskim mafulish tzuras Pesach by. According to Rav, you need a tzuras Pesach. L'Shmuel damar teraskim kasasim. Shmuel says that it's considered closed. Hani mili lechi ma'alya. You need a lechi at each end. Aval hai, but here, given the nosher bezika v'shatila, a wind is going to come and blow over this roll. It's just a roll of a mat that gets rolled up. Like klomo, it's nothing. However, the Gemara says we know it's besichsa v'chavri chavri. However, if you would take a peg and bang it in, keep it in place, then that would be considered like a lechi. What would that do for us? You would need a lechi at each end as well. Rashi says it's talking about we have two lechis on each end. And Rashi says, according to my teacher, you need a lechi in the middle as well, besides for the two ends.